All right, welcome to another Mast 360 live show. I hope everyone had a nice weekend. Today we are going to be going over things that you can do when you are still in mold. All right, hold on, guys. I'm trying to get our slides up here real quick. All right. And let's make that big so you can see. We're going to be joined by Lead Practitioner Kimberley Quirk today, and she is going to have so many pieces of wisdom for you. So just our quick disclaimers. This presentation is for informational and educational purposes only. It is not meant to treat, diagnose, cure, or prevent illness. So be sure to discuss any health recommendations we make today with your healthcare provider. And I see some people signing in, joining us live now. Elizabeth from Norway, thank you for being here. Please feel free to drop in the comments where you're tuning in from. We love to see how wide this community really is. And just a reminder that some of the links shared during this presentation or on our website are affiliate links, which means Mast 360 may make a very small commission if you purchase through our links. We only recommend products that we personally use or use in the Mast 360 clinic. So like I said, today we are going to have Kimberley joining us. We're going to have quite a few recommendations in this live. So feel free to take some screenshots if you think it's going to help, but also know that this recording will be available afterwards. And we will additionally send out a summary of the links in an email this Thursday to our newsletter. So if you're interested in that and you haven't signed up for our newsletter yet, you can do that by going to mastcell360.com/sign up. So that way you can join our newsletter and you'll get a summary on Thursday of all of the links and resources we're going to discuss today. So let's bring Kimberley up, and we're going to, talk about practical tips to reduce mold. If you currently can't move or remediate right away, we're going to talk about how to support your body and what next steps to do if mold is a part of this puzzle. And of course, if we have time, Kimberley and I will do a live Q&A. So thank you guys all for being here. And I'm going to turn it over to Kimberley.
Hi guys, happy Monday. All right, so yeah, it's a huge topic, right? Sometimes we get very binary of like, okay, we're either can be fully out of mold, full remediation, or we're in it. So these are the steps that we talk about, because there are situations where people are in a dorm or in an apartment or a place that you're renting and you can't get out right away. You have a lease and maybe you have a few months left. But how can you improve your air quality is going to be huge. So yeah, while we want to be clear that getting out of mold is definitely the goal. That is the goal, whether you're remediating your house, which is something that I did. Not everybody needs to run from mold. But sometimes if you're a renter, it's, you're not going to be able to do the fixes that you need to get out. So this is in no way a replacement for remediation, but it's a way to improve the air quality and make you feel a little bit better until you can get out of the mold, fix the problem, right? Full term. So what are some steps that you can take to support your health while you are in mold? So reducing your exposure. And we'll talk a little bit about how you can do that in your air today, but also focusing on the basic health foundation. So hydration is huge, at least half your body weight in ounces of water a day. The thing to think about water, and I see this often, people will underconsume the water. You want to be hydrating. That's how your body's detoxing and sort of watering everything down and getting everything out. So it's really important to keep that hydration up and kind of measure it if you're not sure that you're have enough. Daily bowel movements, huge. If we're not having a bowel movement, that's how our toxins are getting out, especially mycotoxins. So daily bowel movement, moving towards that, doing the steps needed, whether it's magnesium or movement, fiber as tolerated, those kinds of things. Sleep, huge, right? If you can. And I know mold can mess with the sleep piece too, especially with our nervous system, but trying to be good about, going to having a consistent bedtime and making it dark and all the sleep hygiene pieces so you can really prioritize that piece. And then exercise is tolerated, right? I know at some point in my journey, just going downstairs to empty the dishwasher was my movement for the day. So just thinking about where you are and where can you add more movement as tolerated.
Yeah, I remember. I was gonna say, I just remember like walking up like a hill in my yard and being like, wow, like just having that feeling like, I know it's not me, but I am out of shape.
Yeah, it does make you, it's humbling for sure. When we start to like try to do what we could before, and it's like, okay, we're in a different place. So that daily movement is important, and it can just be things you're doing around the house, or the walk to the mailbox to start with, and then maybe a little further as you progress. And supporting your mast cells and your nervous system with a lot of the tools that we share, like primal trust and things like that. So how do we reduce exposure at home? So definitely there's ways to maintain, right? And if you listen to Jessica a couple weeks ago from Mold Mentors, she talked a lot about this. Kind of a lot of water events that happen in our homes are a maintenance issue. And that's often why it's not covered by insurance. It's because it's something that was missed. And I know in 2 of my houses, it was like a drip from a toilet, which seems innocuous enough because it's a drip, right? And so there's a puddle and you clean that puddle and maybe you stop the dripping, but you don't realize where that water is going, right? And what's growing sort of behind or underneath. So doing all the things that's necessary to sort of maintain it, which can be like drip pans, leak monitors, water alarms, an inspection if you suspect something's going on. Some people do an annual ERMI test, which is a dust test for mold, things like that, just to make sure maintaining your house. But correcting any water intrusion right away is huge, right? So if you have some kind of leak, some water event that's going on, getting that taken care of right away, getting things dried out right away, because mold only takes 24 to 48 hours to grow.
Yeah.
And it uses like that drywall and the wood and such for food. So all you need is the spore and that wetness and that our house, and it starts to grow. So just taking care of water events right away, not just putting a fan on it, really using a dehumidifier to dry that out. And then if there's any concern at all, getting someone in there professionally to look at that. So if you're renting or something like that, talking to maintenance about the problem, it can't hurt. If you live in a shared housing and apartment situation, but sometimes sometimes I've had clients where they tell maintenance and the maintenance comes in, and maybe they do it in a way that's not mast cell friendly, and that they're coming in and they're scrubbing with bleach, which doesn't take care of the problem, which we'll talk about a little bit later, can actually make it worse, right? It's putting the microtoxins in the air and sometimes making things worse. So just being really careful about how they do it in your environment that you're living in. And the other thing we do is, so say you knew there was a water event, you can prevent airflow from that problem by sort of sealing it up with plastic, like 6mm plastic. You can get from like Lowe's, Home Depot, and then duct taping it and sealing that off. So it's not coming into your air all the time. So you're kind of reducing your exposure there until that can be taken care of. Yeah. So simple free things you can do at home, right? Cover your water and food. And this is something that maybe we don't think about, but if you know you have mold in your environment, you don't want to have an open glass of water sitting there, because that's just giving it a place it can grow. Same with any food, having food out that's, has any moisture in it, fruit, things like that. I would put those in the fridge, put things away, use a closed water bottle. Don't have like an open water bottle or cup. Showering before bed can be huge. So if you're living in mold, I know I noticed this, it would get in my hair, and then I would get hives on my face because everything, your hair is kind of like a Swiffer, right? It'll like attract to it and stay in it. So showering before bed is a really good idea. Drying that hair, because you don't want to grow anything in wet hair.
Right. I hate sleeping on a pillow with wet hair, because I think about like what my wet hair is adding moisture to the pillow. So
and that's not going to dry right. Yeah. No. Especially if you're in a humid environment or something like that. Yeah. So drying it at least enough that,
and having like a pillow cover too that you can
I always put like a towel if my hair's a little wet, if I'm sitting there reading while my hair's drip drying before bed, and then maybe finishing off. And washing your linens regularly, that can be huge, right? So thinking about doing that at least once a week, but maybe even more frequently if you know you're in mold. Taking your shoes off at the door is huge, just toxin wise anyways, even if you don't have a mold issue, just a good thing to do. It's amazing. The studies that have been done, they talk about what is found in the home of people who wear their shoes in the house versus not wearing shoes in the house. And then dusting regularly, right? Which it could be just like damp microfiber cloth and just getting up the dust, because that's where the mold spores and the mycotoxins are going to be, is in that dust. So spend time outside your home. If it's good weather and you're living somewhere that's nice and you can be outside your home, you have mold, maybe you're spending more time outside versus inside. Being cognizant of the air quality too, because I know a lot of us react to a lot of pollens and things. So I know I keep on my phone an app from IQ Air that talks about the air locally where I'm at. And so I'll get alerts when it's bad air quality, maybe I'm closing my windows, and when it's good air quality, which is usually right after rain, is when I open my windows and get some fresh air. And even if I don't have a mold issue, right? So opening the windows if the air quality is good, and staying out of problem areas as much as possible. Like say it's in your bedroom, could you stay in another room for a while? Just trying to distance yourself from that problem area that's going on.
Yeah.
All right. So how do we improve our air quality? So keeping humidity below 50% is the goal. Mold can grow in 50% or more humidity. The other thing I want to say is you don't want to go too low either in humidity. Below 40%, actually viruses grow better. So it's finding that happy medium place, but trying to keep it below 50 so you're minimizing mold growth. So air gauges, there's a link there that talks about some inexpensive ones. I would put them all over my house.
I know, I was looking, I was like, oh, I have one like right over there, but I don't want to, but they're like this big. You can just put them on like the window or on your desk.
I tend to put them anywhere I had water. So I put them like, it was in my laundry room, it was every bathroom.
Kitchen.
And of course, my kid would get out of the shower to be like 90%, like, okay, the fan, like teaching your kids, put that fan on, right? To get all that moisture out. We
have the dehumidifier in the bathroom when we shower.
That's smart. Smart. So and know that sometimes people are like, oh, well, I have a really fancy hygrometer and I'll just move it from room to room, but it takes a while for that to adjust to that room. So that's why it's maybe makes sense to get inexpensive ones you can kind of put everywhere, leave in a basement, right? Leave, upstairs, having one on each floor of the house as well. Let's see, dehumidifier, huge. So there's a link there for one we recommend, and making sure that you're maintaining that weekly, right? Not letting that water sit there. So washing out the bucket with soap and water. And a good idea is to rinse it with hydrogen peroxide, like a 12%, just being super careful, right? You don't want to wear gloves when you use that because it's much stronger than the 3%, and you can burn your skin or gets, bleach out your clothes. So just be careful with that. Using a really good quality air filter can help clean particles out of the air. We recommend the Air Doctor because it goes down to 0.003 microns, which is the size of the mycotoxins coming from the mold spores. So that can kind of help keep the air clean, or at least capture some of the things that are in the air that's gone airborne. We also like some of the air purifiers, like Hypo Air makes one. They make the couple. The Air Angel that we're talking about here is a small unit, more locally. It can kind of purify the air. But if you're looking for a whole house system, they have a whole house system too that most people with mast cell do really well with. Some of the other ones have ozone or something like that that's reactive. This one does not.
Yeah, I think Beth also used to refer to like the Hypo Air and Air Doctor and Hypo Air as like a what's the
offense and defense?
Offense and defense. I'm not a football person, so I'm like, wait, I'm about to give an analogy and I don't even know what the analogy is. So the offense and defensive approach. So they're stronger when you do them together instead of just having one.
Yeah, agreed. And I have both of those.
Yeah, I do as well.
All right. So reducing exposure, improving air quality. So remember, this is not a replacement for remediation. This is something that can help clean up the air. I have seen it with clients who maybe do it every month or two. And they know there's some, an issue in their basement, and they're fogging every month or two, and they just notice a huge difference in their air quality. So fogging or misting, products like BioBalance or EC3, they're very similar products. Misting is more a wetter version, and the fog is more dry and kind of goes everywhere. It is less expensive to mist than it is to fog in general. But I have done both of those. And I have a whole house fogger that I did at one point. So yeah, what it does is kind of like I was saying, the air quality outside improves after a storm, like after rain. I think of this as almost setting up a storm in your house, right? Where you're weighing down those particles and it's becoming dust in your house. And then you can dust or vacuum. Make sure you're using a HEPA vac, right? Because you don't want to throw it back in the air. And that's gonna kind of get it out of the air, at least if it's airborne. So it does take some time to mist and to fog. Just depends on how big your space is, right? I mean, the fogger was quick, but I had to leave for, I left for 24 hours, but leaving for several hours is important just to let it work. So you're not stirring everything up. And I did not react to it either. I know Beth had done that too, and she didn't react to it either. It was pretty gentle.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah, have you misted or fogged?
Yeah, we have. We're in a position where we rent, so we can't completely just like remediate. So we're doing all of these things like to keep our air quality as best as possible. And we have mold in the basement, so I don't go down there at all. My husband is the one who regularly mists because it's more affordable. So I was going to mention the piece about the cleaning up afterwards, like if you can make sure you're dusting and vacuuming, Kimberly said. And the other thing that I wanted to add that I just learned from you is if you're going to do an ERMI, do the ERMI first before you mist and fog. Just so
otherwise you're taking it. Yeah. Yeah.
But just as far as like order of operations go, if you're going to do an ERMI to see is the environmental mold a component for you that you hadn't thought of yet, and you want to evaluate that, do the ERMI. And I know Zach threw the link in, or Cam threw the link in for you guys in the comments to get 5% off on an ERMI test for you guys. You can do that first, and then you can explore the EC3 or the BioBalance products.
And yeah, if you're concerned about reacting to it, I mean, some people obviously are sensitive to citrus and may not be able to do it. It is a citrus-based product. But it's always good to start in a small way. So I have a super, super, super sensitive client who just had her husband do the garage to start, right? And she did okay with that. And then he did one room in the house, and they kind of did it that way and kind of did it slow and sort of titrated what we talk about going slow, just to see how she responds to it. And I feel like that was a good way to go just before you do something to your whole house. So yeah, there's some other EC3 products that some clients have had some good luck with. The EC3 candles, I've heard, and that might be a good way to try, right? Before you go and mist and fog your house, maybe you're trying a candle to see how you do with it, that product near you. And then you can use the concentrator spray to wipe up and sort of get rid of, all that dust which contains the mold. And then many people use the EC3 laundry additive as well for your clothing, for your bedding, for your linens. Also, the hottest water that you can use is good as well.
I didn't know that piece about hotter water.
Yep.
And then also with the candles, I know some people are kind of skeptical of them, but we've had, people on our staff who've used them and like they actually report that they help. And we've had other clients get them and report that they do help some. So, some people are like, how's a candle going to do that? But sometimes we don't need to know how everything works. But if we see, improvement, then we know that that's a good tool. And again, as Kimberly was saying, all the stuff that we're talking about today is not a replacement for remediation, just that reminder that they're all things that we can do if remediation's not possible right now, or removing ourselves from the mold isn't
Right.
possible immediately. But
Like if you're a renter and you have months left on your lease, like maybe this is something you can do, or you just don't have the money for remediation. And the problem is there, but it's not huge. It's not growing upstairs, it's growing in the basement, like Jamie's talking about. And how can you keep that air quality
contained
at a better level? Yeah.
Healthier, yeah.
So some things to avoid, especially with mast cells. So ozone is a mast cell's trigger. It doesn't kill all the mold, and what's left is more aggressive. So really use caution with that. I haven't seen anyone do well with it, with mast cell, in terms of ozoning a car or ozoning your environment. And that smell sort of hangs around afterwards, and our body does notice it. Bleach, you don't want to use bleach. It doesn't kill the mold. It's actually adding moisture. It just makes it invisible, kind of removes that surface area if you did it like on a surface, and it can make it grow more roots, and it gets very defensive. So bleach is not recommended. And then the other thing, you don't want to disturb the mold, right? So if you are like, oh, I think there's some mold here, and maybe you see a little bit, you don't want to go and rip open that wall without containment. I have seen people do this where they're like, oh my gosh, I found this and I got to get it out. And they start ripping into things. It's going to put everything into your environment, all those mold, all the mycotoxins. You don't want to do that. If you've kind of looked a little and you see it, you can kind of contain it and then get a professional in there. Wait till you have, containment, an air scrubber, all those things, because you don't want it spread all over your house. It's kind of like hazmat. And then, some other things that people recommend react to. Benefact is a pretty common thing to use for cleanup of mold, post-mold, remediation usually. Many people react to that with mast cell. So I would just use with caution, in terms of that one. And then, Biobalance and EC3 have been tested by our team and are generally well tolerated in the clinic. Are there some people who can't tolerate it? Absolutely. There's a few. Yeah. But generally, I've seen it pretty well tolerated.
Yeah. All right. So how do we support our body?
So how do we support our body in mold and, out of mold with mast cell? So reducing triggers is huge. We cannot over supplement the triggers. And I know at some point we were trying to do that in my body before I found the mold. Yeah. And my body just got louder and louder. So clean air, clean water, clean food, clean body products. And I would do it in that order. Because of the amount of exposure, right? So you breathe 20,000 times a day. That's a lot of exposure. We sometimes always think about the food. We only eat 3 times a day. Usually, unless you're snacking too, right? Clean water. We usually consume water more than any food we eat. So you want clean water. And sometimes, we take our air and our water quality for granted. We aren't looking at them. We're not. Because mold, it can be very invisible. It can be a hidden thing behind a wall that's coming into your environment. The mycotoxins are microtoxins, really. They're super, super small. You're not going to see them. So we assume we have clean air. We assume we have clean water. And those are things to really look at and filter and clean up. Clean foods and clean body products. So just getting the chemicals that are in most standard beauty products and standard foods out. Reducing EMFs. That can be as simple as turning your Wi-Fi off at night and seeing if you sleep better. Because for some of us, that can kind of keep us not sleeping deeply. And leaving your phone outside your bedroom, turning off, kind of getting away from you. I tend to, put mine just in the bathroom, far enough away that it's not interfering with my sleep. Some really foundational health supports, like we talked about, the sleep, the hydration. Supplements can be super helpful that we talk about quite a bit. And supporting the nervous system, because I'll tell you, I think that nervous system is what notices the mold first. Why is our body acting haywire? Quiet down. Then we're supplementing or medicating and trying to quiet it down, but it's getting louder, trying to tell us what's going on, what's hidden. It's kind of in the shadows. So
And that's like part of the MC360 approach, like that nervous system. Like if you've been with practitioner after practitioner and no one's mentioned nervous system work to you before, it's kind of like red flag, like we need to start there.
Absolutely.
So as part of like stage 1 in the MC360 method is stabilization. So nervous system's part of that. Removing environmental triggers, which is the mold piece, is part of that. So as long as we're continuing to be in mold, there's going to be that destabilizing factor there, of, you know, and like Kimberly said, like the nervous system is sensing that mold. You know, we smell that musty smell. The olfactory system's connected to the amygdala, which is part of the limbic system. And we can go into fight or flight whether or not we feel stressed or not, but there could be a real physical stress response going on.
Yeah. Not able to sleep because your body doesn't feel safe. Not
Yeah.
able. Yeah. And your body then starts to like limit us, right? Because it doesn't know what it's like, what's dangerous or not. And that's where it gets so confused and the tolerance goes away. Yeah. And it's like, okay, we're going to bring down the number of foods you can eat and the number of things you can do. And we're going to keep limiting you because there's something that's dangerous that I want you to stop doing.
Yeah. And then just thinking about how foundational sleep is. So if it's like the nervous system is causing you not to sleep well because it feels it's in danger, and then we don't sleep well, everything, we make poor food choices. It's like just a cascade effect. Yeah. So along those lines of like, this is really foundational, like what we've said today, those are really easy things to target and start improving. But we've talked about those things so much in other lives. So, you know, this is just skimming the surface to give you some ideas. But we have so many other blogs and videos on these topics so that you can always go back and explore those in our video libraries on YouTube and Facebook. So just, again, some ideas to move the needle a little bit, so to speak.
So yeah, nervous system support, which Jamie just went into quite a bit, but yeah, it is commonly missed, especially if you're coming out of a traditional mold detox practitioner kind of office. Sometimes they miss that that nervous system piece. And yeah, we see it as at least 50% of mast cell is that nervous system piece. And it's not that that you feel nervous or that you feel stressed. It's just the upregulation the body has done from the mold exposure. And then if we've had any kind of past trauma or childhood, that it kind of is magnified, right? Or just really is a lot more, right? So yeah, calmer nervous system means calmer mast cells and less mediators or chemicals are released from those mast cells because they're calmer. So yeah, and then it's also important to work on, sometimes people just talk about limbic brain retraining, but the vagus, so the limbic is like the top down and that vagus is the body up. And you want to work on both of them because you want to really calm that nervous system. Things can stay sort of stuck in the body or stuck in the limbic fear base.
Yeah. And also just creating like a routine around these too. So it's not just like you do it once or you go through like Gupta or you go through primal trust one time. It's more about establishing like a routine that you're going to do daily and, you know, like remind yourself, this goes back into the nervous system, is like that feeling of worthiness. It's like, I'm worthy enough to spend time every single day taking care of me. And, you know, finding the nervous system supports that you actually enjoy, because like the ones that you're going to do are the ones that are going to move the needle, and remind yourself that you're safe, because it's like that it's an invisible muscle kind of. But we want to do the retraining. We want to do the vagal toning because ultimately we can't expect life to never throw a stressor at us. That's unrealistic. We will be stressed possibly multiple times a day, but the more that we build a routine around nervous system, the more regulated we'll be able to ground, like we'll be able to re-regulate and ground down after a stressful event and remind our body that we can be safe and feel safe. So it's more about establishing a routine so that we can recover faster from a stress. So I like to remind people of that too.
Yeah, because sometimes people are like, okay, I did that course, done, I'm done. But it's like we need to continue to do those nervous. And I you know, even though it doesn't look like when I first started, I still do. And so people will ask, what do you do? And I've incorporated it into my day, right? So I don't even think about it. It's become second nature, the things that I do for my nervous system.
Yeah.
And
Like
then noticing when I'm in a different state, right? As a stressor hits, right? Which we all, and then kind of being like, oh, okay, I'm, really revved up. I need to kind of calm my system down, and what tools work best for me.
Yeah.
So some answers to common questions that we get. So can I stay in mold? So know that mold is toxic. I do see mast cell as a gift in some ways of making us aware that it's there, so that it protects our health long term. And yeah, supplements and nervous system work are essential to recovery. You also need to reduce that mold exposure. So it's not a one or the other, it's both and. So remediating or getting out as soon as possible is the goal. Absolutely. Will I heal in mold? I see it more as a maintenance, right? Where you can kind of, the toxins are coming in, but how can you reduce the exposure? And then also, how can you support the body so you don't get worse? But definitely the goal is to get out of the mold. And will binders help? So depends on who you are, right? You need to be stabilized first. So I wouldn't, if you're not stabilized, you're having a lot of mast cell reactions or reactions all over the place, you don't want to add on binders right then, because that's going to challenge the system a bit. And if you don't have daily bowel movements, no way. Those binders, what's going to happen is it's all going to slow down and get reabsorbed. So binders are great for the mold, but you need to be both stabilized and have those daily bowel movements. Jamie and I always tell clients, no poop, no binder. Like literally, if you've gone like 24 hours, and what should a normal bowel movement look like? It should be every day, at least once. Yeah.
I had a client the other day that because it was her normal to go every other day, she assumed that was normal. And it was like, well,
yeah, no, every day.
Every single day. And also like you can still have constipation. Obviously, like the fast bowels are better because you're not constipated. You're actually releasing things, but you're not maybe absorbing the nutrients from your food that you need for your function, the systems in your body to function properly. So like too fast is not good. Too slow is not good. So we do, part of stabilization is finding that happy middle ground of one good bowel movement minimum a day. All right. So what are the next steps?
So yeah, some big next steps. So testing your home, testing your body. I mean, that's where I began. Testing my body was really eye-opening to see if I was exposed. So what does testing the body? We like the urine mycotoxins test from Real-Time Lab. And that's showing what you're detoxing. So if you're someone who your body isn't detoxing well, you're stuck in like, say, cell danger response, your body might not be detoxing well and it might not show up on that test. Or it might be low level. This is the other thing I see. People will come in and they will say, oh, look, my test is it's really low. So it's really not a problem for me. But the thing is, we're probably not detoxing well. So we often see, in clinic at least, the second mycotoxin test, actually the Real-Time Lab mycotoxin test, things go up because we become a better detoxer. And they often feel better too, even though the level is higher. So testing your body can be sort of eye-opening, like, is this a problem for me? And then testing your home is imperative because that testing your body shows past or present. So you don't know when you were exposed. It could be from the past. But yeah, making sure you're in an environment, and you could be exposed at work as well, right? Or in your car. So keeping those things in mind, and listening to your body too. I mean, I have some clients who are like, yeah, I feel great at home and I don't feel great at work. So then their eyes kind of open up to that and ways to improve their air quality there or make changes. Reduce your exposure as much as possible, for sure. Educating yourself, for sure. So keep coming to Facebook Lives and reading blogs and stepping forward. Supporting your body, your mast cells, and your nervous system. And finding the support you need, both physical, emotional, environmental, because we do need some help through this journey. It's hard to do alone, for sure. And work on getting out of mold or remediating. And I am a big firm believer in remediation if you own. But yes, it sometimes comes down to the scope of the project and the cost, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. And if you guys are kind of like, this is great, but how exactly do I do these things? We do have a whole course dedicated to testing. It would be a great way to educate yourself, some tips on how to continue to reduce exposure. So it is on sale this month for $100 off. So I do want to spend some time going over that with you guys today, especially because it's the last week of our sale. So we only have one more week for you guys to get $100 off, which means the course, you can get our basic course for only $149. If you have any questions at all and want to make sure that this is like the right course for you, the right next step, you can reach out to us at support@mastcell360.com and we can, answer any questions that you may still have. We still have time today. You can ask those questions now. But there's a lot of wealth of knowledge in there. I think we have a bonus on what to do with mold and your gut. There's a brand new printable detox workbook, which kind of breaks it down into easy steps of like, okay, this is what I do first. So it's really laid out there. It's basically what we do in our clinic with clients. So it's a great first step. Some people are able to do a lot of this on their own. And then sometimes they find that they may need some additional support. But as far as like, where do I begin? If that's kind of like, mold is, or you've seen mold in your home, you smelled mold and you're just kind of like, I haven't felt good since I've lived here, right? And you're just like, where do I start? This would be a great place for you guys to start. And let me just throw up the link there for you guys. It's also written down here, mastcell360.com/mold course. So that is a great place to start. And again, just ask us those questions if you have them, if you're wondering if this is right for you. So we do have time, like I said, for live Q&A. If you haven't asked a question yet, we do see some coming in, so we'll get to those. Feel free to write in another one, but only submit your question one time. This helps us track and make sure that we're not missing anything. Keep the questions on the topic of today's live. So we're going to be answering questions about mold, what to do if you can't move right away, testing, things along those lines. And please do not ask any in-depth personal health questions. We're unable to answer those. So thank you so much for understanding. All right, Kimberly, let's see. Where shall we begin? Okay, so I think this might have been answered in the comments, but Sally's asking, what test do I get to find mold in the house or basement?
Yeah, so our favorite that we'd like to use in clinic just to see are we in a safe environment or not is the ERMI test, which stands for Environmental Relativity Moldiness Index. It's developed by the EPA, but there's many companies that do it. We could probably put a link in for you from the one we recommend, which is from List Bio, and probably about a $300 to $400 test. And what it does is you're going around and you're sampling dust from around your house. Now, you don't want to go and find grandma's antique piano and wipe there, right? You want to get like your house. So, windowsills and baseboards and fans that are installed and things like that. You get all over. You're not going to go down into an unfinished basement and wipe there, but all your living space is what you're getting. And that's going to kind of tell you what's going to come back. It's going to give you a list of the toxigenic molds and then common indoor house molds, and then what they are and the amounts that they're coming out in. So yeah, and then sort of, you can kind of see from there. I mean, then I would, if that's coming up elevated for you, I would do a strategy session with somebody like Jamie or Cam or someone to get a read on that. And what does this mean for me? Is this something? Then also just paying attention to yourself. I have clients who are like, I went away for vacation for 2 weeks and I felt so much better, and she could eat all these things. She's like, I had a glass of wine, which she could not do at home, which was just very eye-opening. Though, even though she had some mold remediation, there were still some things that were making her react at home that needed to be cleaned up.
Yeah. The next question, Tanya's asking, is there something that you can recommend if you're traveling or staying in a room that may have mold? So this is a good thing to know. People sometimes go on vacation, but they feel worse because they're staying in a hotel room with mold, which is common.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's happened to me too. Yeah, and my body lets me know when I'm in it. But yeah, so opening windows, obviously, that kind of thing. But if you're in a hotel room and it's sort of closed up, like, so it's like, is it an Airbnb? Is it a hotel room? There is a travel mister from BioBalance. I don't know if EC3 might have the same thing as well. I'm not as familiar with that product, but BioBalance does have a travel mister where you can go and spray your room just as a precaution. If you do okay with the product, it's like a one-time use kind of thing, kind of to bring that level down. It might also be, keeping, if you have just a local AC on or something like that, depending on the weather and the temperature in the room, but could you leave that off so it's not blowing air, things like that. Could you open the window? Could you switch rooms? I've had a lot of clients do well with, okay, like, can I go to another part of the hotel, another upper floor or something like that, away from where the problem might be? So yeah, lots of strategies.
Yeah, and even I've brought the Air Angel with me to like a beach, because I'm like, oh, like it's hard to go to the beach without being around mold. So I've brought that. And if you're traveling by car and staying like with family or friends, you could bring like an air doctor, air purifier to bring.
Bring your own pillow. Bring your own pillow. I learned that the hard way. Yeah.
Yeah. Kim just let me know that if you're watching on YouTube, that it doesn't look like the links are working. So you may have to copy and paste them, or sign up for our email list and you'll get clickable links in an email on Thursday. So sorry about that, guys, but sometimes we don't have control over everything, right? Okay. Do we really need to get rid of all of our belongings? Clothes, stuffed animals, books, furniture. It was in AC unit. Claire, thank you for asking this question.
I would say I did not. There's not a lot I got rid of. I got rid of a lot of paper. I got rid of a lot of cardboard, which I should have got rid of anyways, because that's kind of mold food. I got rid of the important things to get rid of are like a mattress, because you're spending so much time on it. Especially if it's old. Carpeting or rugs, those are really hard to clean. So it depends on what it is. But clothes you can wash. We usually recommend people wash them like 4 times, especially with the sticky molds, which are your black mold. So it depends on what kind of mold it was. But if it was in your AC unit, chances are it probably wasn't Stachybotrys or Chaetonium, which are your black molds. It was probably more like a Aspergillus or a Penicillium, which is a little bit easier to get out. And then some people just put stuff away in storage. And then, maybe in a plastic bins and things like that instead of the cardboard, and come back to things later and say, am I reacting to it? If it's something that's really, heartfelt and you're not ready to get rid of.
Yeah. All right. Cheryl is asking, what about the ozone features on air filters?
So Air Doctor has an ionization and not an ozone one on the one. I would stay away from the air filters that have ozone in them, because most people react to them. But, if you're doing okay and you have one, you probably don't need to worry about it, but you could try it without it on. I like the Air Doctor because you can turn the ionization off, because some people do even react to that ionization piece.
Yeah. Okay. Kim is asking if a toilet is questionable, how to go about it. Do you put it under containment right away or take the toilet off to see if mold is there and then do containment?
So I'm guessing that she means there's maybe a leak or something. I mean,
yeah, probably.
I'd probably shut off the water to it. And it depends on how many toilets you have, right? Because you need a toilet. With mine, we had 2 or 3 toilets, so we could turn one off and kind of keep that room kind of off limits, short term, until we could get the problem taken away. But I probably wouldn't go and take the toilet off unless you had full containment going with air scrubber, because you can bring everything kind of out into. With my issue, it was a micro toilet leak under a flooring, and I literally did a little tiny slice so I could just test. So Immunolytics has these swabs, and I literally swabbed it and sent it in, and it came back a toxic form of Aspergillus. So I didn't completely open it. It was a tiny little bit. And it was already sort of starting to split, but that was just so I could test. And then it came back, and then I was like, okay, I need to get a remediator in here, because I just didn't know how far it went into the subfloor and all of that, and I didn't want to pull it up. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, Sally's making the comment that this is all so hard when we are so sick. It absolutely is. We do recognize that.
It is really hard when you're sick. So, how can you get someone to help you out? At least to get to the place where, especially if it's touching some mold and things like that. I mean, I very much got my partner or a friend to do some of that for me if I was reactive to it. So, or could there be somebody in your neighborhood or a church or something who could help out or do something in a small way for you, or you could trade something with, or, yeah, it is hard. But yeah, it's important to do it to start to feel better.
Yeah. Claire is asking, exactly dragging.
Fatigue and confusion. Yeah.
Yeah. How do we work to clean all of it? Too sick to get well. Yeah. Claire, we see you. We hear you.
Yeah.
Similarly to Sally, it's one small step. If you can take one small step at a time, you don't have to do it all overnight. But rewatching today's replay, like what is one thing that you can do to help make an improvement? And maybe it's just an air doctor to start getting some of them out of the air. So that's like it's an investment, but it's an investment in your health, and then you have it. And it's like you don't have to actively clean up mold, but you're taking one step to improve your health.
Yeah, I didn't do all of mine at once at all. I was over a year or two. Yeah, at least.
Yeah. And using that order of operations, like clean air, clean water, clean food, you really don't have to do it all at one time.
And prioritizing your belongings, right? Like I said, like the mattress you're sleeping on, I made the mistake and I should have done that much sooner. And then also, yeah, the carpet. I mean, I could only afford to do it in half my house at that time.
Yeah.
And that still made a huge, huge difference for me.
Yeah, I made the mistake of when we moved into this rental, it had brand new carpet, and I was like, oh, well, at least it doesn't have other people's dirt and grime in it. But I have 2 dogs and a almost 6-year-old. Like, I have plenty of my own dirt and grime, and that feeds the mold. And so I regret not removing the carpet right when we moved in, just because it was new. So yeah,
the thing I want to say to people about the carpets too is if you're doing wet clean and it gets very wet, that pad doesn't dry and can grow a ton of mold, even if you didn't have a big water event.
Yeah.
So just know that.
Claire's also asking what recommendations for nervous system supports that are not Gupta. So Primal Trust is the limbic system program that we're now recommending. And if you're kind of like, I don't know even where to begin, we do have a nervous system reboot course as well that you can explore on our website. So maybe Zach or Cam can throw the link in for the reboot in there for people who are just kind of new to nervous system and looking for where to start.
And I'll say the Primal Trust is more than just limbic. It's limbic. It's mostly vagal, has a ton of vagal in it, but it does have that limbic component. But it also has somatic release of some of the trauma. It also has a community built into it, which I like if people want to tap in, so you don't feel so alone in this journey, because there'll be many like you in it. And could you just commit to, doing 3 months and do level 1? It can make a huge difference in kind of dialing down some of those mast cell reactions. And that might be where you start too. If you're too fatigued and things, might be a good place to start.
Yeah. All right. Dana's asking, is it possible to stabilize well in mold to get to a point where you can use binders? And so I personally was able to stabilize while still in mold, and onboard binders. So it is definitely possible, but this is where that customization piece comes in, finding the right tools for you to get to that stabilized place.
And I was not able to stabilize in mold. My body was way too reactive to mold. Just the list of meds that I was on to quiet that response. I mean, it was prednisone, it was Xolair, it was 4 Allegra a day. It was all the things to quiet it down, plus a whole list of mast cell stabilizing herbs, and my body was louder than all of it. So it depends on the person.
Definitely depends on the person. I'm not sure about this one. Kimberly, do you know? No ozone.
I wouldn't. With mast cell, right? With mast cell, I would just use caution, because what you might want to do is, if you know somebody who has one of those washing machines, could you wash something that you don't care about there and see how you do? But I think the scent is going to linger, and for many, that kind of is what kind of sets us off.
Yeah, this is a great question. It's risky to move because then you could end up in a new moldy home. Kimberly, this happened to you.
Yes.
Yeah. How do you ensure the new home is not moldy? So without testing, since testing takes weeks to get results, I would personally do a contingency if I was offering to purchase a home. And I would say, like, I'm willing to purchase this home, but not until this test comes back.
Yeah. So yeah, I moved from mold to mold without knowing mold was even an issue. I just knew Lyme and POTS and SIBO and all the things. And then I do think I moved from black mold, though, to a lower level amount of Aspergillus penicillin. My body just got upregulated from the stress of everything and the detox, and that's when mast cell came out. But I have recently moved, and so yeah, I think it's important if you're buying a home to test, and you can order an ERMI, and I paid for 1 day testing and overnighting.
Yeah, I was going to say that you can actually get it back pretty quick.
You can get it back in like days if you pay. It costs extra, but is it worth it? Yes.
Yeah, especially if you're going to invest in a home, like where
right.
Yeah,
you're investing in it. Usually, I would not waive inspection on a home, even a new build. I am in a new build. I found things in new build, not mold, but other things going on that you just want to make sure that get checked out, and keeping that builder really honest, or even little mistakes can happen. So easy just to have another, good to have another set of eyes on these things, just to ensure that you're in a good environment. And then when I was looking for a house, I mean, my body is so sensitive to mold that I could tell from a walkthrough. I would literally on the way home would have a couple hives on my arm, and be like, call the realtor and be like, yeah, that's not the house for me.
And if you smell it, like if there's any musty smell at all, then the issue is musty smell at all. It's I was going to say the mold issue goes way deeper than that. So
yeah.
Okay. I'll answer this one real quick. For those who already have the basic mold course, is there a current discount to upgrade to the advanced level? So the way we do upgrades is when the mold course is on sale, you can purchase the advanced course at the discounted price, and we refund you the price you paid for the basic. So you basically get whatever you paid for the basic off, and by purchasing the advanced during the sale, you're getting the advanced course at a much lower price as well. So it ends up being a pretty good deal. All right. Great question, Deborah. Are fogging and misting products damaging to pets and furniture?
That's a great question. So the fog, check with each manufacturer, because they can have different things. But I know the fog has been fine for pets, and definitely for furniture, electronics. I mean, when I did it, I opened everything up, left everything where it is. Misting is more of a wetter product. And I know that they say, be careful with electronics, be careful with fine art, and then be careful with cats. Cats don't do well with the misting. That's what I've heard. So,
yeah. Let's see. Here's another fogging question.
So let's see. Fogging spreads the mold. It doesn't necessarily spread the mold. But yes, ideally, if you were doing a remediation, you would want to fog after to kind of clear the air and kind of do a deep particulate cleanup. That's what it's called. But if you're someone who's stuck and you can't remediate, it's a way to kind of clean up the air. It's a temporary fix.
Yep.
But we've seen it with clients who are able to stay a little bit longer, or be less reactive in a home and start to stabilize, because they're not able to get out right away, or they can't do the full remediation, or they're not able to move and get out of their lease. It's a temporary.
Yeah.
I see somebody asking, were you able to get off Xolair? I was. Yeah, I got off Xolair. I got off. I'm on 0 Allegra. I used to be on 4 a day. I'm off of prednisone. I got off of my SSRI. The only medicine I'm still on is thyroid hormone, and I've had to lower it 3 times in the past 2 years. So everything is kind of healing post mold for me.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm still on the thyroid medication. It's my goal to get off, and people are like, no, you can't. And I'm like, no.
My goal too. I'm trying. The thyroid is I feel like the last thing to fix. Yeah.
That was one of my thyroid symptoms was what led me to mast cell.
Well, it was the first symptom I had too.
Yeah.
First, it can be. I find like it's first out, last, like first in, last out, kind of like. Yeah.
So I think we can talk about this more generally. So rather, how do we advocate for ourselves to doctors, Dawn? I like to say that, the doctor works for you. And so if you're not having a doctor who's listening to you and your concerns, there are other practitioners out there who may be more knowledgeable. The real-time lab test you can do in home. You don't need a physician to do it. So you can test your own body for mold. But Kimberly, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah. I mean, I usually with doctors learn quickly not to talk about my Lyme or my mold, or I talked more about the symptoms. And sometimes didn't want to get into the debate with them about what was the root cause of it, but how could they best support me? And I'll tell you, I mean, the meds I was on helped. I mean, prednisone saved my life more than once. I did have anaphylaxis twice. So those things were important for me as a bridge to get to where I am now. So how can you work with your doctor to support your symptom piece, which sometimes meds are a bridge, but longer term, they're not the one that's going to help you get out of the mold in your environment. You're going to be doing that, working on your well-being.
Yeah. So Josh is asking, his main bath has started to smell musty in various levels. Does the musty smell alone indicate there's I'm assuming mold problem? So yes.
Yes. Yeah. That musty smell is mold. There's no difference really between must and mold. That's just the smell it gives off. So yeah, I would investigate further.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Valencia is asking if there are places that you have to go, like an office or a church building. Is there a way to assess exposure? And so paying attention to how you feel in those spaces versus not in those spaces, specifically that you maybe suspect mold being in.
Yeah. I it's kind of, sometimes people you can tell by how you feel in the space, especially if you've been out for a little bit, it's kind of more obvious. And then, just educating yourself about the mold and what you might look like, because somebody would be like, oh, I started looking around my church and noticed there was staining on the walls, or there was a patch growing or something like that. And I noticed that every time I'm there, I have a headache, or I just don't feel well there. So yeah, kind of assessing that.
Yeah. And Jill, this is a great one to kind of finish up on. Just a reminder that everything we talked about today are steps that you can take if you can't afford to move right now. So doing little
things you can do yourself. You can do all these things yourself. Yeah.
Yeah.
So which feels so empowering, right? Yeah, to be able to do something for yourself. Yeah, it's hugely empowering for me to be able to test a little bit, or to find, because I'll tell you, I had 3 mold experts in my house who could not find the mold, but my body would not shut up about it. So it took me finding it, and it was on a very low level. And hindsight's 2020 in terms of my body was upregulated for mold because of past exposure. So yeah, just I had to really educate myself on what to look for, and then it was like, I gotta find this.
Yeah.
What can you do?
Mm-hmm. All right. Yeah. So just that final message of leaving you guys feeling empowered today to continue to educate yourselves on what you can do when maybe full removal is not possible right now. But I did want to let you guys know that we are doing a giveaway for EC3 products. So you can enter at mastcell360.com/EC3give. and it takes about 2 minutes, and you'll be entered. We'll do a drawing and announce the winner. And then the EC3 products were developed by Dr. Dennis, and he will be on April 7th. So he's going to be talking about fungal sinus colonization. So, when we're living in mold and we're breathing in mold, it's very common for those sinuses to become colonized. So you'll want to mark your calendar for April 7th. Kimberly, do you have any parting words of wisdom?
Just take your next step, right? I know it can be hard when we're fatigued. What is the next step that you can take to kind of investigate, am I in mold, and how can I improve my air quality or move myself forward?
It's a great piece of advice. Yep. All it takes is just one step at a time to see improvement. All right, guys. Thanks so much for being here with us today. We will see you guys soon. Have a good one.